Eminent domain, taking what's yours. Governments have a right to take private property. It's called eminent domain. They have to pay you for it. This is supposed to be for the public good. Think roads, schools, and stuff everyone uses. In a democracy, you have some say. You can challenge the government in court, you can protest, you can vote out politicians who abuse this power. It's not perfect, but it's something. Authoritarian regimes are all about control. They thrive on the ability to dictate every aspect of life within their borders, leaving no room for dissent or opposition. They don't answer to the people. Instead, they impose their will through fear and intimidation, ensuring that their grip on power remains unchallenged. They don't care about your rights. Civil liberties are often the first casualties in such regimes, as any form of resistance is swiftly and brutally crushed. They want power, and they'll do whatever it takes to get it. From manipulating elections to using military force, their methods are as varied as they are ruthless. Eminent domain? It's a dream come true for them. The power to seize private property without consent is a tool they wield with impunity. Need to build a fancy new stadium for the Olympics? Take the land. The needs and desires of the populace are secondary to grandiose projects that serve to bolster the regime's image. Want to reward a crony with a sweet development deal? Expropriate some property. It's that easy. Corruption and nepotism flourish in such environments where accountability is non-existent. And because there's no free press, no independent judiciary, no rule of law, nobody can stop them. The mechanisms that would normally check such abuses are either co-opted or dismantled. It's a recipe for corruption, abuse, and suffering. The human cost is immense, as communities are torn apart and lives are destroyed in the pursuit of power and profit. In the end, it's the ordinary citizens who pay the price. Their dreams, their homes, their futures are sacrificed on the altar of authoritarian ambition. But even in the darkest times, the human spirit endures. The fight for freedom and justice continues, fueled by the hope that one day, power will truly belong to the people. China's economic boom has been impressive. Skyscrapers, high-speed rail, it's all very shiny and new. But at what cost? China's government has used eminent domain on a massive scale. They've evicted millions of people from their homes, often with little compensation, all in the name of development. Sure, some people have benefited, but many others have been left behind, forced into slums, pushed to the margins, their rights trampled underfoot. Hugo Chavez promised to redistribute land to the poor, a move that was seen as a beacon of hope for many struggling families. It sounded good in theory, a plan that could potentially uplift the rural economy and provide sustenance to the needy. But it turned into a disaster, unraveling the very fabric of the agricultural sector. Chavez expropriated millions of acres of farmland, seizing properties that had been cultivated for generations. He gave it to his supporters, many of whom lacked the experience and knowledge to manage such vast tracts of land, but they didn't know how to farm. Production plummeted, and the once fertile lands became overgrown and neglected. Venezuela went from food exporter to importer, relying heavily on foreign imports to feed its population. It was a classic case of good intentions, terrible execution. The dream of self-sufficiency turned into a nightmare of dependency. And it highlights the dangers of unchecked power, especially when it comes to property rights. The consequences were far-reaching, affecting not just the economy but the very lives of the people. Section 5, Property Rights Under Threat, a global concern. This isn't just happening in China and Venezuela, it's a global problem. From Cambodia to Zimbabwe, authoritarian regimes are using eminent domain to enrich themselves and consolidate power. They're grabbing land, seizing businesses, and displacing communities, all while paying lip service to the public good. It's a blatant assault on property rights and the rule of law. Section 6, Economic Instability, the price of power. When governments can take your property on a whim, it creates uncertainty. Nobody wants to invest. Nobody wants to build. Why bother if the government can just come and take it from you? This leads to economic stagnation, corruption, and poverty. It's a vicious cycle, and it hurts everyone except the ruling elite who are lining their pockets. Section 7. A world without checks and balances. We need checks and balances. We need independent courts. We need a free press. We need institutions that can hold power accountable. Without them, we're at the mercy of dictators and despots. Our rights are meaningless. Our property is not our own. We become serfs in our own countries. Section 8. Protecting our rights, a call to action. Our rights are the foundation of our freedom, and they must be safeguarded with vigilance and determination. We can't take our rights for granted. They are not just given, they are earned and maintained through constant effort and awareness. We have to fight for them. Every generation faces its own challenges, and it is our duty to rise to the occasion, to stand up and be counted. We have to speak out against injustice. Silence in the face of wrongdoing is complicity. Our voices are powerful tools for change. We have to hold our leaders accountable. Democracy thrives when citizens are engaged and demand transparency and integrity from those in power. We need to support organizations that are fighting for property rights around the world. These groups are on the front lines, advocating for fairness and justice. We need to educate ourselves and others about the dangers of unchecked power. Knowledge is our best defense against tyranny and oppression. The future of freedom depends on it. Our actions today will shape the world our children inherit. Because when the government can take your property, they can take everything. Property rights are human rights, and their protection is essential for a just society.